We're here today to protest gun violence all around the country, and we just want to, get the word out there and try to be heard about what we think should be done within our country. And we just really want to. It's happening this often. Somebody needs to pay attention, and something needs to be done because it's just ridiculous.
Well, why I'm here today is because I guess gun violence has gone on too long in this country. Like, the Second Amendment was not made for assault rifles, and it's not just, I guess, school shootings. It's about everyday gun violence. Like, I'm not sure if this number is correct, but around 60% of gun deaths are suicides, and so I think it's important to highlight all types of gun violence and, take steps in making legislation that protects our people, because I think the right to life is more important than the right to bear arms.
The march for our children's lives, the march for our society's lives. So make sure that you're registered to vote, and make sure that you vote for the candidates who care about their community, and to make sure, because the role of government is to ensure everybody's safety.
Volunteer to help pass out signs for the gun violence. Not only that, but to be a part of today. I feel like gun violence is something that we really need to talk about, not necessarily on the school level, but any type of gun violence. I feel like assault rifles shouldn't be just easily given out to people. Last year we did have a school shooting threat at our school, and it really scared a lot of people. We didn't know what was going on. It scared me. All we heard it was just a lockdown, and then text started getting around saying there's a gun on campus, and it scared a lot of people. And it's just a feeling that we show up at school and we don't know if we're going to be safe or not. I don't like it.
We can hug a little tighter, we can laugh a little more, laugh a little harder, we can stand up and roll. If we all come together, we'll be alright. Stand up for one another, and we'll never give up the fight.
Easily ignored by those who will not listen. There are so many things you can do to become involved.
Reach out to your congressman. Mail, call, and tweet. The smallest of words can make the biggest difference.
Be the voice for those who don't have one.
Together, we have the power to change the world around us. Knock us down, we'll get back up again. You may have hurt us, but I promise we'll be stronger. And we're not gonna let you in. We're putting up a fight. You may have brought the dark, but together we will shine a light. You're not gonna knock us down. We'll get back up again. You may have hurt us, but I promise we'll be stronger. And we're not gonna let you in. We're putting up a fight. You may have brought the dark, but together we will shine a light.
My name is Steve Young. I'm the Vice Mayor of Benicia. And I need to say that this is not a city-sponsored event. However, it is one of 826 such marches that are happening around the world. We are here to honor the 17 victims of the massacre at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and to address the scourge of gun violence that's racking the nation.
We should not be used to the fact that children are dying at school, a place students go to learn. No one should be scared that their school might be the next one on the news. This bill has been revised and edited for 5.5 years, and as much as I appreciate and respect Mike Thompson and his team, it simply is not enough. They first drafted the bill after the massacre at Sandy Hook. Since then, more than 400 people have died from mass shootings alone, and we haven't seen any other action to prevent gun violence. We need change now, and if the people in charge won't stand up, then we will. I believe that if we changed our outlook on the mentally ill, or knew what signs to look for, then we would gain a better understanding, and maybe they would be more willing to reach out. The first big step to achieving this is by allowing the CDC to do research on gun violence. We've seen what semi-automatic rifles can do, so why are they still being sold? Is it because the NRA needs money? I wish the answer was no, but the NRA has been clear that their right to bear arms outweighs our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And what does the right to bear arms mean? It is described as a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well-regulated militia literally means properly governed military force. This made sense in 1776 when our country used its citizens as its very own military force. But it's 2018 now, and we don't need civilians as young as 18 carrying dangerous weapons of war. Furthermore, when the Second Amendment was written, it was with regard to muskets, which could take as long as a minute, if not longer, to reload and shoot. Today, when we have easily accessible semi-automatic guns that can shoot at rapid fire given the appropriate features, the Second Amendment's definition just isn't accurate in today's society. I urge everyone to reach out to your state and local representatives. Let them know where you stand on this vital issue. We do not need people in office that will take money from corporations with a specific agenda over our right to live. This November, it is imperative that anyone of voting age gets out and votes to elect like-minded individuals. Too many lives have been lost, and now, together we say, never again.
First of all, join me and thank Shauna and Steve for pointing out some good facts. I look forward to making decisions based on facts and evidence. I want to thank the organizers for this opportunity to speak to you. I want to thank the City of Benicia for providing the support necessary for this wonderful march. I had been told, and we're going to verify the fact, that this is the first march in Benicia's history since World War II. I'm so impressed with all the incredible work that has been done to make Benicia and our country a safer place. And so thank you for this rally to say never again. You, every one of you, are keeping the flame alive to prevent and stop, end gun violence. You are giving us renewed hope for ending gun violence as we chant never again. My dream is freedom from fear of guns, bullies, and the NRA. My dream is for Benicia to be safe, not fortified, to be free from impulse and calculated killings. My dream for the nation is to be free from the military rifles and handguns on our streets, in our schools, churches, concerts, and the workplace, and just hanging out. My dream is the end of the nightmare of guns killing 5-year-olds and high schoolers and teachers and church-going people and workers in restaurants and businesses and offices, men running in fear for their lives. Today we are marching for our lives. Tomorrow we will write our elected representatives to end gun violence. Today we are registering new voters. Tomorrow we will demand candidates to vote to ban military weapons on our streets. Never again. Today we heard your call for never again. Tomorrow and every day after, we will call out our supporters of the NRA. We will call out the politicians, the retail stores and businesses, restaurants, chains, and sports stores and airlines. And we will say never again to the NRA. Today we are together, tomorrow we are together, and every day after we are together until we end gun violence. Today we call for a ban on weapons of war on our streets. My dream is that we don't blame people with mental health problems, but that we treat with compassion, intent, and care. And to call for more investments by the politicians in mental health. My dream is that we teach in our schools, our movies, and our music how boys can show emotion and solve problems through caring and kindness and not violence. My dream is that we stand up to bullies and that we help those being bullied. My dream is that we treat guns like cars, that we require people to get a license and safety training to drive and use guns. So my dream is that we continue this and to end the gun violence, and that we work together, and that we remember the one thing that will be effective is to vote. So join me in campaigning for the rest of this year and into next year to make sure we get the right people in Congress, the right people as a future president, the right people in local government to end violence, and join me. Never again.
So how did the NRA react after the Parkland massacre? Did they take time to mourn? Did they lay low? Actually, 1 week after the shooting, their spokeswoman, Dana Loesch, said the following: many in the legacy media, I'm not sure what that is, many in the legacy media love mass shootings. I'm not saying you love the tragedy, I'm saying you love the ratings. Crying white mothers are ratings gold. Our next speaker is Benicia's poet laureate, who will be reading a poem she wrote for this occasion. Please welcome Johanna Ely.
My poem is titled, I am tired of waking up to the faces of dead children. I am tired of waking up to the faces of dead children who smile at me from the TV or computer screen. I want to tell them they are not dead. I want to reach down into the earth, into the ashes, and resurrect them, pull them up by their bones and hug them to my chest. I want to wake them up and reassure them that they are only having a nightmare, that the ghoul with the gun isn't real. I want to check their homework and make them breakfast and send them off into sunlight. Tell them I will see them when they return home. I want their backpacks flung on the couch and the kitchen table, their lives beginning again with every breath. I am tired of waiting for gun laws to change. I am tired of imagining blood on my hands, these children dying in my arms. I am tired of hearing their awful silence explode in my ears. I am tired of trying to remember how many there are now, how every morning they look at me and just keep smiling. Thank you.
Now the NRA says they're under attack by students from Parkland to Benicia. Corporations are cutting their ties. The students from Parkland went to the legislature in Tallahassee and actually got the legislature to slightly toughen gun laws in Florida. One of the NRA's biggest supporters, Governor Rick Scott, actually signed that bill. So with the NRA under all these attacks, let's be sure to send our thoughts and prayers. Our next speaker is Liam Madigan, who's a junior at Benicia High.
The world has changed. This isn't some big revelation, I know, but the fact of the matter is that the world has changed, but the laws have not. For too long, senseless gun violence has cowered behind the Second Amendment, and too long has real progress been blocked by fear and ignorance. And so, we all find ourselves taking part of a national movement to make sense of the senseless and to not only atone for the mistakes of the past, but to prevent the blunders of the future, guided by the change we seek and the progress we make. If I wanted to get a gun, I would have to undergo a preliminary training course, then pass both a written and practical tests. From there, I would have to meet health requirements and meet certain renewals and inspections at certain points. Wait, no, that's a car. If I wanted a gun, I could just go to a gun show and buy one in 7 seconds. And unlike cars, guns exist for one reason and one reason only: to kill. The death that comes as the result of a gun is not a side effect, it is the effect. And thus, we cannot treat them the same. We cannot afford to look upon them the same way we look upon anything else. Because when we do so, human lives are at risk. 66% of Americans support stricter gun control, according to a recent poll, which is the highest it's ever been. So why is it so hard to do anything? Why is it so hard to bring about change when the vast majority of the country supports it? When the vocal minority drowns out the silent majority, there is only one solution. We, the silent majority, must raise our voices. Across the nation, we all have to band together and speak out. And we will continue to speak out until our voice is heard, until we are listened to, and until the change we seek is brought about. Guns have no boundaries, whether it is the televised mass shootings that seem to place them in the forefront, or the silent epidemic that claims 96 lives every day in this country. It is clear that guns are a problem. And yet, for over 2 decades, the CDC has been blocked from receiving any funding to researching gun violence. Is America truly so sick, so twisted, we cannot even examine the very disease that is killing us? Is this country so infatuated with weapons that we are willing to sacrifice thousands and thousands of lives just for the sake of its existence? Are the priorities of America so contorted that we would rather protect our guns than our future? To those older than us, I ask you, what do you want your legacy to be? What kind of world do you want to leave behind? And to us as a generation, we have to decide what kind of world we want to inherit and what kind of world we want to pass on to our children. Because this fight, this struggle, extends far beyond the reaches of our community or our country. It extends beyond even the reaches of gun control. Because at the core of it, this is a fight for a better world. The generation that emerged out of the crucible that was World War I was known as the Lost Generation. Well, we've emerged from our own crucible, but we're not the lost generation. No, we're the last generation. The last generation to experience school shootings. The last generation to tolerate racism and sexism and all forms of intolerance. The last generation to stand idly by as we witness war, violence, and inequality. We will not accomplish this in the first year, or in 10 years, or maybe even in 10,000 years. But we take this first step towards a brighter tomorrow and a better future today, here, now. Because if not us, who? If not now, when? I'm asking each and every one of you to take a stand today. A stand against tyranny and oppression wherever it may be. A stand against violence and bloodshed, whoever may commit it. A stand for peace, for justice, for equality. A stand for humanity. Thank you.
Well, some people think the answer to this is to put guns in the hands of teachers. Or to harden the schools, to put up metal detectors at all the entrances. But it's not just schools. Are we going to harden the churches? Are we going to harden the shopping malls? Are we going to harden the concert halls? I think we need to keep the focus on the real problem. And that's the easy access to the kind of guns whose only purpose is to kill quickly and efficiently. The answer to the problem of too many guns is never more guns. Our next speaker is Assemblyman Tim Grayson.
So, Benicia, I have heard your young adults speak today, and these students are absolutely magnificent. We have hope in the generations to come. I am here today for the same reason you all are here today, because brave students have come together to say, enough is enough. No student should ever again have to know the trauma of a school shooting, to see their friends die in a classroom, their teachers heroically placing themselves in the line of fire in the hopes of saving students' lives. No parent should ever have to wait in anguish, wondering and waiting, hoping and praying for a text message that may never come. And no one, not a single person in any community in America, should ever have to wonder if kids will be safe at school or if this is the day that tragedy comes home. I want to thank the brave and the committed students, especially here, but all across the nation, who are getting involved, who are speaking out, who are demanding change, and inspiring us to do the same. It is beyond time for other states and our federal government to catch up with California and enact some common sense gun legislation. California was the first state to ban bump stocks. We have laws limiting magazine capacities and ammunition purchasing. We have 10-day waiting periods and required background checks. California has fought to enact policies that the majority of Americans support, and we support here. So my question today is, why hasn't the leadership of our nation done the same? I don't have the answer to that. But I do know that change is here because we are not willing to compromise when it comes to the safety of our children and the safety of our students. Now, I don't just stand in front of you today as a politician or a legislator. I stand in front of you today as the father of a 16-year-old daughter. And the burden that she carries on her shoulder of going to school is hard enough to match elements with elements in chemistry class. She should not have to walk the hallways wondering if she's going to live through the day and come home and be with the family at night. Her burden becomes my burden. And today, as a father, I say enough is enough. Change is coming, it's coming soon, and it starts right here and right now. Thank you all for coming out.
The phrase that the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. But when you hear that, maybe you're really just listening to somebody trying to sell 2 guns. And the other one is the argument that cars and knives and hammers are just as lethal as guns, which raises the question of why you would need an AR-15 if you already have a car, a knife, and a hammer. Our next speaker is Kara Fisher, a senior at Benicia.
However, following the Parkland massacre, a new dialogue was created. One that called out our country's toxic gun culture, one that focused on the remembrance of the victims and the strength of the survivors, and very importantly, one that reevaluated the role that youth can play in politics. We hear a lot about investing in the youth of this country because we are the future. We are the ones who are passed on the torch and told to right the wrongs of the generations before us. Wrongs including issues of climate change and national debt and complex foreign relations. But for the issue of gun violence, we cannot wait. We are forced to yank this elusive torch from the hands of those who have failed to protect us. Us students are not too young to be the victims of gun violence, therefore we are not too young to speak out against it. Gun violence has become an issue of young people because of the decades of stagnant policy, the decades of neglect by our representatives, and the decades of silence, all barring us from the fundamental protection that we so clearly deserve. I am here to say we cannot be the generation that saves this nation's economy or fixes our foreign policy or preserves our environment if we are not living to see graduation. Therefore, in order to achieve this future that we dream of, investing in our youth must become synonymous with investing in student and public safety, with investing in policy that protects people over guns. So help us, stand with us, support us, as we declare never again to the bloodshed that has stained this country. As we demand with every breath from our lawmakers to enact policy that ensures a safe future, a future that begins with gun control. Today we march, and in November we vote. Because we can no longer tolerate this fear that surrounds us in every avenue of society. The fear of losing our lives in school, or at a concert, or a movie, or any public event. This constant panic is a result of the reoccurring devastation of gun violence, and this deep-rooted pain has become our nation's narrative. But today we say enough. And begin a new chapter. Chapter, a chapter that future generations will read about in history books that tell the story of a movement that was started and led by students. A movement that finally cured this nation's epidemic of gun violence. A chapter titled Never Again. Thank you.
In 1986, in England, there was a gunman who went into an elementary school and killed 16 children. People there, like people here, were outraged and stunned and demanded change. Unlike here, their politicians listened. They banned handguns, and there have been no school shootings ever since in England. And they have one of the lowest gun violence rates in the world. Our next speaker is Dana Dean, who is a trustee of the Solano County Board of Education and the president of the California Counties of Boards of Education.
Hello, everyone. Hi, folks. I have to say I'm so honored to be here today before you. And I am here to honor two sets of folks. First, the students. Students who only meant, I won't say want, but I will say meant to go to school, to sit in their classrooms, to talk to their friends, to text, to show up the next day and do the same. I'm also here to honor teachers and administrators. Teachers who sacrifice every day to raise our children. And in this case, teachers who sacrificed everything for our children. So, as a longtime activist, I want to share with you a couple of secrets about activism. The first is, and I'll say the electeds that are here today, you know, we're happy to honor those folks that I talked about, and it's fun when we attend these things. It's a nice feeling to get to see people, but this event and all those around the country are not about your electeds. They're about you. They are about the activists. They are about the students and what all of you can do. So I'm going to let you in on a secret about what is important to the elected and the so-called powerful. It's a single word. You're close. Numbers. Numbers matter. The number of people who show up, the number of people who stand up, the number of people who speak up, and the number of people who do it again, show up, stand up, speak up, the number of people who reach out to their congressmen, who reach out to their senators, reach out to their local electeds. I'm telling you the truth. That's what matters. They have little sheets that say how many people talk to them about this issue, and then the next week, and the next week. So please, stand up, show up, speak up, and do it again. Don't let this become yet another alert on your CNN webpage. Don't let this be another thing that fades into the distance while the current administration sends up new headlines about who got fired and who didn't get fired. Don't let them distract. Stand up, show up, speak up. The second part of the numbers is what? Money. Money is the second part. This is the secret. Money matters to your electeds. And how do they get the money? They get the money from corporations. And how do the corporations decide what they're going to spend money on? They decide based on what you tell them. I'm going to encourage you to do something that in our family we've done for a long time. I call it militant consumerism. Do not spend your money where they are selling assault weapons. Don't do it. That is what matters. I'm an elected, guess what matters to me? Numbers. Who's showing up? Who's telling me the truth? Who shows up again? Who's spending money on what matters? You tell Walmart, you tell the sports stores, you tell the grocery stores, don't sell weapons. I'm not going to spend my money with you until you stop. So what's the word you got to remember? What counts to electeds? Numbers count. Show up, stand up, speak up. Thank you.
Just this week on Wednesday, a student gunman was shot and killed in Maryland by a school resource officer. People say that this is how it's supposed to work. But it was not a win. It was a preventable tragedy. No other country has students who bring guns to school. And no other country expects police officers to shoot school children.
So, this song was written by the students at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and we'd like to dedicate it to all of the victims of gun violence.
Reach out to your congressman. Mail, call, and tweet. The smallest of words can make the biggest difference.
Be the voice for those who don't have one.
Together, we have the power to change the world around us.
Yes, you do.
Knock us down, we'll get back up again. You may have hurt us, but I promise we'll be stronger, and we're not gonna let you in. We're putting up a fight. You may have brought the dark, but together we will shine a light. And you're not gonna knock us down, we'll get back up again. You may have hurt us, but I promise we'll be stronger, and we're not gonna let let you in. We're putting up a fight. You may have brought the dark, but together we will shine a light in. Whoa, whoa, special. Whoa, shine,
I was thinking those exact words, and I get to follow them. They were awesome. How about another round? They were awesome. So I am speaking here today because I spent 39 years in a classroom teaching math and history. And I am appalled just like you. So this is a shout out to Congress. Since you seem incapable of doing what we want, I'm going to give you a lesson plan. Number one, make sure there is a working landline phone in the classroom because enough is enough. Number two, I want a classroom door that locks automatically without a key because enough is enough. Number three, I want a door that does not have a window in it because enough is enough. And number four, I want windows that are strong and that the shades come down because enough is enough. That is nonpartisan. That can happen before the November election. But here's a pledge that I want. I want everybody to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to vote. I promise to vote. In November. In November. Because change is coming now. Because change is coming now. Because enough is enough. Because enough is enough. 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 Yes. Woo!
So this is not really a partisan issue, it's a moral issue. But there are, some people say it's not even a political issue. I'm going to disagree. I think it clearly is a political issue. To change the laws in a meaningful way means that it has to go through Congress. And if this Congress doesn't change the law, then it's time to change the Congress. There are several groups here working to do that. I believe there's some tables over here. The Carquinez Patriotic Resistance. Vallejo Benicia Indivisible. And the Progressive Democrats of Benicia. They are all working to change Congress. And so I would urge you to get involved. Go talk to them if you're not already active. There are several people from the League of Women Voters here, registered voters. If you haven't registered yet, I'm not sure what your excuse is. Please go do that today. Our next speaker is Morgan Bundy, a senior at Benicia High.
Today, we are not only here to show our support for this movement, solidarity with the community of Parkland, and to mourn the loss of every person lost to the senseless epidemic of gun violence, but we are here to forge a lasting change in this country. As I look out to you, I see familiar faces and strangers. I see classmates, friends, teachers, teammates, neighbors. I see a community. And most importantly, I see hope. Hope that one day we will no longer be accustomed to the slaughter of our children. That we will no longer accept this epidemic of gun violence as our norm. That we will no longer allow our representatives to turn a blind eye to the root of this problem. We will accept nothing less than comprehensive gun control. We will expect nothing less from our government than to protect us. Not just in schools, but in movie theaters, in churches, on our streets, and in communities of color that do not receive news coverage because it doesn't make for a shocking headline. We will not stop. We will not stop because too many times we have witnessed national policymakers neglect to do their jobs, valuing the blood money of the NRA over the lives of these victims. The silence ringing from the halls of Congress solutions proposed by the White House will not suffice. The solution to this disease is not more guns. It is not arming teachers, and it is not turning our schools into prisons. We must reflect on the morality of a country, and we must recognize that guns are the epicenter of this problem. America has faced this adversity before. A divided nation, a silent government, but even in the bleakest of times, America has persisted. Lawmakers are put into office by us, for us, and if they do not listen to our voices, they will no longer have the privilege to represent us. When our voices go unheard, our convictions go unanswered, and our truths are no longer held evident, the change will come from within. From Parkland to Washington, D.C., from Anchorage, Alaska to Boston, Massachusetts, to Montgomery, Alabama, to Berlin, Germany, to Tokyo, Japan, from right here in Benicia, California, and to the other 800 marches in cities across the world, and to every town in between, we hear you. We hear you, and we are fighting right beside you. Yes. And to the lawmakers that let our cries fall on deaf ears, you are an accessory to every death hereafter. This is a nonpartisan issue, and I plead the politicians in Washington to hear me when I say you need to choose our lives over your bank account. And if you continue to be a pawn of the NRA, if you value the rights of guns over the rights of your constituents, you will be replaced. That is the promise. And now to the young people here today. We are not the apathetic generation that they make us out to be. We have been told to be cynical, to be fearful, to be doubtful. I am telling you to reject this. We are not expendable. We are not collateral in the crossfire of this discussion. We were unwillingly drafted into this war that is killing us. And we never asked for this, but we will put an end to it. We are not just the future of this country, we are this country. We will be heard, we will be respected, and we will rebuild from the devastation that they have left for us, brick by brick, vote by vote, until we have a union that represents us in a country that we are proud of. We will have setbacks, our progress rescinded, our opinions disregarded, and our ideals questioned. But we cannot lose hope. And I have never been as hopeful as I am right now that we will get there. I would like to end with a quote from Cameron Kasky, a Parkland survivor and a leader of the Never Again movement. When you're on the right side of history, it's hard to lose.
We're also honored to have a teacher here from Benicia High School. Please welcome Michelle Gaines.
Yes, I was invited here by these fine young people, and I see the faces of a lot of fellow teachers out there, and I think it's safe to say we're all extremely proud. And I'm thinking to say that we don't want to be armed, and we want to speak out, and that's why I'm here today. I think we were growing numb. I think we saw the numbers. We know the numbers that told the story of gun deaths in America. We saw the comparison to other developed countries, how many more guns we own and how many more gun-related deaths we have. We knew the reference, America's gun culture. We registered the names that became synonymous with mass killings, Columbine, Sandy Hook, Virginia Tech, Orlando, Las Vegas. And we grew cynical as we watched attempts to pass common sense gun control laws meet with the fierce opposition of politicians who believed we needed more guns, not fewer, to be safe. We didn't feel safe as we watched the powerful gun rights lobbyists convince lawmakers that people should be able to carry guns at all times, and even those on no-fly lists should keep their right to buy guns. We watched as the Second Amendment was distorted time and time again. And then came Parkland. where young people rose up from the scene of a bloody massacre to speak and to challenge the adults to act because they had simply had enough. They saw what a military-grade weapon could do, and they know we can't ensure the mental health of every person in the country. But we can do more, much, much more, to make sure that they don't have an A-15 in their hands. And so they marched to their state capital, to the White House, and they spoke eloquently and passionately, just like our young people have today. On television, on social media, in marches like this one. And we're here, one of these 800+ marches, raising our voices in support of common sense nationwide gun control laws. We are no longer numb. Things we thought never possible are beginning to happen. Corporations, businesses, lawmakers are finally listening and acting. It's only a beginning, and we know that because these young people have pledged to keep marching and keep speaking until change happens. They know from history that if they don't give up, they will prevail. As one of their teachers who cares about their future and who believes deeply in them, I pledge to march alongside them for as long as it takes. They have always given me hope. Now I'll do what I can to support their efforts. We really have no choice but to stand alongside them as they march for their lives.
It may seem like all of Congress is in the pocket of the NRA, but that's not really true. One congressman who's definitely not in their pocket is our Congressman Mike Thompson. Representing Mike today is his senior district representative, Mel Orpia.
Out in Napa doing the same thing, but he asked me to read a letter on his behalf. And it goes, "Today, following the footsteps of our students, we raise our voices to fight for an end to gun violence. I am so proud to represent you and to join with you in supporting our students during today's March for Our Lives. As chair of the House Gun Violence Prevention Task Force, I am too familiar with the impact of gun violence. This year alone, there have been at least 48 mass shootings, and on average, 30 people each day are killed by someone using a gun. In our own community, more than 80 have been killed by someone using a gun in the last 4 years, including the 3 brave women who were tragically murdered at the Pathway program in Yountville this month. This epidemic impacts all of us. The last month has given us all hope. As we see the impact of the voices of the students in Parkland, Florida, and as we watch the outpouring of support for them in communities across our district and our nation. Today, we join them in standing up and speaking out. It's time for Republican leaders to give us a vote on legislation to help prevent gun violence and keep our schools, our communities, and our nation safe. Thank you for your action, your courage, and your strength of convictions. Together, we will make a difference in the fight to end gun violence. Thank you, Mike Thompson, Member of Congress. And I just want to say to all of you out there, what Dana Dean said is correct. Call us, email us, visit our office. We're at 420 Virginia Street in downtown Vallejo. You can email us. We have an open door policy. Do not wait for a gun violence prevention town hall. We're here to listen to all your concerns, and your voices will be heard. Thank you.
We have Caitlin Clark from Benicia.
Should they ever come for us next, and our last breath become bullet wound, don't call us dead yet. Call us each an uprising. Name our bodies a protest and our blood a revolution. Do not let our names be numbers. Let them be a war cry. Let them be a constellation to guide our kin to a place they do not call themselves already dead on the first day of school, where the only things we open carry are our textbooks, where our greatest weapon is our voices. Do not call us body counts. Call us anything but gone. A doctor who treated victims of the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School described the exit wounds as large as an orange. and watch how our bodies can turn a graveyard into a garden, how from beneath the soil we become the plants, become the flowers and the rain and the sunlight and then the sun itself, how we bear fruit in a country that loves us less than a loaded gun. There is a Mexican proverb that says, they tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. And there have been almost as many mass shootings in the United States this year as there have been days. An orange tree grown from seed takes approximately 15 years to blossom. And after an entire generation grows up in the shadows of school shootings, when active shooter drills are as normal and as frequent as math tests, what's shocking about the Never Again movement is not that it's happening, but that it took so long for us to start. The National Rifle Association describes itself as America's oldest civil rights organization. It was formed in 1871. The same year, Congress passed the Ku Klux Act, a piece of legislation that authorized the president to use martial law to suppress the KKK. On July 6, 2016, Philando Castile was murdered by a police officer in St. Paul, Minnesota. After informing the officer he had a firearm in the car, the National Rifle Association did not speak on his death. Instead, they made martyrs of murderers until it was a record that skipped for every year I am old enough to remember, called them mentally ill until we asked for better mental health care, told us to be silent, told us to be silent, told us to be silent. Should they ever come for us next and bring our bodies back to the soil from which we came, tell them we are a forest fire. Tell them we will burn the gardens and build new ones over and over and over again until we live in a world without gun violence. Tell them we are here, breathing, alive, still.
Representing the Benicia Board of Education, Trustee Stacy Holguin.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. You know, the first line of my speech says I'm honored to be here this morning. But really, in listening to all of our students and listening to everything, what I am is heartbroken and devastated. It's so difficult to be able to stand here and say that, you know, we honor the safety of our students and our staff and listen to these youth share their perspective of that. We're doing our best at the district to be able to put the safety regulations in place that will keep our students and our staff safe. We have the rules that say there are no guns on campus. We have the safety plans that we review every year, and we pulled them out again to take a look at them in the most recent round of issues. But really, what we need to continue, what we need to have, is that civil dialogue that everybody has been referencing thus far. When people come to me and they say, this is a mental health issue, I say, yes, you're right, it is a mental health issue. We have to pay attention to bullying. We need to do better with addressing stress and depression. We need to figure out why our young men feel so under siege in this country. We need to address all of those things, and we have to have the discussion that is necessary about access to guns and ammunition. We have to have that discussion. When people come to me and say, this is a family issue, I say, yes, you're correct. It is a family issue. We have to support parents who are having challenges with parenting. We have to end hunger and poverty for our families. We have to look at how the media impacts our youth and desensitizes them about violence. Those things are all true. And we've got to have the discussions about the access to guns and high-powered ammunition. We have to have that discussion. If we don't have that discussion, we cannot solve the problem of mass shootings in our schools. Because this issue, like suicide, is made brutal and devastating, not by the depressive thoughts, not by the impulsive acts, Those things we can address through mental health and better connections to family and friends. These actions are made devastating by the access to high-powered guns and ammunition. And we have got to have that discussion in our culture. You've heard several times that what we need to do is vote, that the numbers count, that people need to hear our voices. And I'm so incredibly proud of our youth for bringing that to our attention once again. So today we stand here and we share our thoughts with each other. Tomorrow, call your legislators, call your congressmen, call everybody else's legislators and congressmen. Make sure they hear what we're hearing today. And thank you very much for being here.
Our generation is leaving quite a mess, but I hope that your generation will learn from our mistakes. These kids are woke. Please welcome Carson Rendell, a senior at Benicia High.
We have lived in the shadow of gun violence in this country so long that it has become a way of life. Yet new light is being shed on this problem, bringing reason to an unreasonable issue. Today, in a small town, in a large state, in a strong nation, we stand at the dawn of an arduous task, though a necessary task it is. Its ultimate goal, to make the United States safer by removing the weapons of war that are detrimental to our security and well-being. Time and again, we see that these instruments, designed for destruction, take our lives instead of protecting them, in places where there should be no need of protection. But time and again, our attempts at reform have been struck down by an unwilling government. To change this, we must put aside the differences we have with one another in an hour when these are apparent. To stand together and fight today for a better tomorrow. We must change our laws as well as our culture to ensure the safety and sanctity of our lives. Presented with this task only a few months ago, I would have deemed such an undertaking unthinkable. Now, however, as I look upon the men and women here today, I have found a familiar friend, one tested by hardship and pushed to the brink of defeat, yet one that is resilient in the face of all adversity. Hope. For what challenge is without adversity? And what challenge have we faced that we have not conquered? Our history is full of movements against corruption and deceit, led by a younger generation. So let that legacy pass to us. To those who should have spoken, who long ago should have changed, we speak now for ourselves. So I ask you now to arm yourselves with hope. Protect yourselves with speech. Let reason, compassion, and common sense be the weapons in your arsenal. For now we take aim at those who have failed us, at those who are corrupt, at those who did nothing while thousands died on their watch. We face this new challenge head on and let it ring out from town to town, from state to state, across this great nation, that today marks the beginning of the end. Together we stand tall in the light of this dawn, and we say enough. Enough to suffering, enough to murder, enough to inaction. For where there is death, there are not enough thoughts and prayers to stop it. We need laws. We need our representatives to make and pass these laws. It is our turn to speak. It is our turn to vote. And if they do not speak for us, they won't earn our vote. We will elect those who pledge to protect us, and those who have failed will not represent us. Now is the time for us to unite. For when united, we have accomplished what we set out to do. And as a nation, we will fight to overcome this unsustainable way of life. With every word written, every step taken, every line spoken, we will fight to move this country forward into a future of security and we are determined to do what is difficult, what seems impossible, and what is inarguably right. We will fight to end gun violence in America, and we will succeed. Join us, stay with us, fight with us to the end. Thank you very much.